From matching Nadal's Grand Slam record to becoming world number one at 35, Novak Djokovic has done it all recently, so it's about time we had the GOAT conversation about him. There's a tiny issue though. People still don't think he's that great, and it's actually kind of wild when you consider the guy's insane numbers. I mean, don't take my word for it. He was literally deported from Australia last year, only to come back and win the Grand Slam the following year. Like, I don't know about you, but that just shows the mental fortitude of this guy. Plus, he sits at 22 total Grand Slams now, level with Rafa, and ahead of Federer. Plus, he's better in head-to-head stats, too. That's got to count for something, right? Well, apparently not. Seriously, it's either that the entire tennis world just hates him, or there's something actually wrong with him. For instance, even his latest foe, Stefanos Tsitsipas, kind of stumbled around the idea, calling him one of the greatest, before switching his words to the greatest after boos from the Serbians in the house.
To say one more time, Novak brings the best out of me, and these are the matches, I've been working my entire life for. He's one of the greatest in our sport, and he's the greatest that has ever held a tennis racket for sure. I'd like to...
The greatest of all time. I want to ask you, are you the greatest male tennis player of all time?
Don't ask me that.
Oh, and that's not even the not admitting part that's weird. It's the whole reluctance that everyone's got to show before coming around. After all, even if you think he's not the best, you can't deny the actual stats. Plus, at 35, he's still going strong, which is not something that could be said for other players of his generation. Like, people forget that Nadal's only a year older than Novak, but that's the thing. It's not even people from the current generation or the audience. In fact, tennis legends don't take him seriously either. Oh, and I'm not kidding here. Whether it's someone like Jim Courier or Todd Woodbridge, most legends don't think he's got what it takes to be the GOAT. As a matter of fact, most of them either skew toward Nadal or Federer, and this extends to the whole tennis community. It's almost as if Djokovic is an outsider, like he doesn't belong here. But again, you got to ask the question, why? Doesn't the Serbian have a better overall record than both of them? Not to mention he's on track to open a comfortable gap by winning a bunch more Grand Slams. Well, guess what? Turns out winning doesn't make you the greatest. I know, even saying that out loud sounds ridiculous, but there's some truth to that as well. Dylan Alcott, for instance, recently echoed the same sentiments in an interview. For him, the greatest doesn't mean the guy with the most wins. Plus, Courier had something similar to that as well. As a matter of fact, the four-time Grand Slam champion went as far as to say that Novak might have more majors and weeks at number one than Nadal, but he's still not as good. What's more, he went as far as to say that even if the Serbians ahead in their head-to-head, Rafa is still the one with the best body of work. Oh, and Woodbridge? Well, he just refused to answer the question, saying he doesn't want to go there. I mean, every sport has this debate about GOATs. Soccer with Ronaldo and Messi, basketball with LeBron and Jordan. It's only natural. But there's something very strange about the way everyone talks about Djokovic. Though, of course, you could potentially pin it all on one very simple reason: Novak's controversial antics.
And again, toast.
Now, even though he's one of, if not the best tennis player in the world, the Serbian still comes with a fatal flaw. He just can't seem to escape drama, whether it's his secret energy drink during matches or, well, getting deported for not being vaccinated. He's been involved in all sorts of trouble over the past few years.
No, he's just pushed it wide. Djokovic explodes with rage.
And, in a way, it has tarnished his reputation, so much so that some people don't even want to associate with him anymore. Seriously, when Federer enters the court, everyone goes silent in respect. When Novak is there, however, then, well, you could probably place a bet that someone will shout at him at some point during a match. Of course, that happens with other players as well, but the difference is that they just take it and smile. Djokovic, on the other hand, asks for these people to be ejected from the arena. See the difference there, right? And it's like a never-ending cycle, because people can't seem to respect affect him. Now, you could say that this is a product of self-belief that he's built, his unwillingness to give up and accept defeat. I mean, the guy is insane on the court. Or, alternatively, you could call it ego. It just depends on whichever way you look at it. Some people go as far as to call him entitled. And honestly, I wouldn't necessarily disagree with them. Then again, when you hear him during interviews, he doesn't come off as a bad person at all. If anything, Djokovic is one of the more humble players out there. Like, just look at his post-match interview in Melbourne. He sort of laughed when asked if he thought he was the GOAT, and instead, he said he was honored and privileged to be in the discussion in the first place.
To say that, I'm so honored and privileged to be in this discussion, first. Second, I truly honor and admire the history and all.
He then went on and talked about how it's tricky to have a conversation on the topic. After all, every generation is very different. For instance, merely 40 years ago, people were playing 3 Grand Slams on the grass with wooden rackets. I mean, he's got a point. While comparisons with the likes of Federer or Nadal may be more apt, you really can't go back and compare with, say, Pete Sampras or Rod Laver. The game and tech in it have evolved so much that it's almost unrecognizable. Then again, I don't think people mean Jim Courier when they're having GOAT debates. So yeah, even Novak himself is avoiding the question. I believe he does know deep down that people don't rate him as highly. And to be fair, that would have been enough to drive a lot of people mad. Like, imagine people not acknowledging the insane things you've achieved. Wild. That being said, even if we stick to stuff happening on the court, there is another argument to be made against Djokovic. After all, he doesn't play the most aesthetically pleasing brand of tennis. And that, folks, might be the thing that holds him back from being the greatest. Don't get me wrong, he's an exceptional player. In fact, I'd say that he's virtually unbeatable on his day, but it's the way he does it that's so unappealing to people. Sports is entertainment after all. Just take his recent game against Tsitsipas. It almost felt like the world number 3 was playing against a brick wall. Novak returned everything with ease, and yet it didn't feel effortless. You know, like how Federer glides across the court with his signature backhand slice. That shot makes you think that you're seeing greatness in action, though for some reason the Serbian never evokes that feeling. In some ways, you could even say that Djokovic approaches the game mechanically. He's got this supercomputer brain churning out all the calculations to pick the perfect shot. Someone like Roger, on the other hand, approaches the game like it's something to be framed and hung in a gallery. It is art. And that's not something you can learn. But of course, all these things can feel super subjective. Plus, I can bet that people won't be as hesitant if Novak goes on and wins 30 Grand Slams. Or perhaps some extra time will help people appreciate his achievements as well. You know, maybe after he retires or something. For now, however, Djokovic continues to be the quote-unquote villain of the tennis world, whose brilliance at this point is clearly unmatched. All right, that was it for Novak's place in the tennis GOAT debate. See you in the next one.